Welcome to the San Francisco Public Library Commission meeting for July 18th, 2024. The time is 4:30. I'm Margot Schaub, and I serve as the Library Commission Affairs Analyst. This meeting is being held in person in the main Library Crete Auditorium, and members of the public can observe the meeting using the Zoom system by following the link in the library's event calendar or by calling 1-877-853-5247 and entering ID number 833-3503-66457. Members of the public who are attending the meeting in person may provide public comment for up to 3 minutes for each item on the agenda. Library commissioners in attendance are President Connie Wolf, Vice President Pete Wong, Commissioners Mall, Lopez, and Bolander.
Thank you very much. And hello and welcome to the July 18th, 2024 meeting of the San Francisco Public Library Commission. We are pleased to welcome everyone here in Crete Auditorium and our virtual audience who is listening and watching us via Zoom. We have a full meeting, and we will start with the Ramaytush Ohlone land acknowledgement. The area now known as San Francisco is the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the original peoples of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. We recognize that we benefit from living, working, and learning on their traditional homeland. As uninvited guests, we affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community. If you have not already done so, all the materials for this meeting are available on the Library Commission webpage or in the back of the auditorium here at Crete. Today we have a total of 5 agenda items, and we will begin with agenda item number 1, which is general public comment. This is the time for members of the public attending here in Crete where they may address the Commission on items of interest to you that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. You have the opportunity to address the Commission on today's agenda items when that item is called. So this is a moment to address any other item that you may have interest in. General public comment is now open here in Crete Auditorium.
Good afternoon. Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. I'm sorry to see some of the commissioners are busy reading and not paying attention to what I've got to say. I guess they're not really very interested in what the public might have to say. I'm glad for those who are not reading material, so that you might hear what I have to say. The library likes to tout itself as queerest, library, ever, and I see the city librarian nodding. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that I can't feel that that is actually true. As an example, this month is evidently Disabled Pride Month, and that's featured prominently as an example on the New York Public Library website. It's a banner across the top with links to further information and materials. Berkeley Public Library likewise has a banner on top with some changing displays, 4 of them. One of them, Disabled Pride Month. In San Francisco, there are librarians who haven't even heard of it, as I hadn't heard of it either until I saw it at other libraries. San Francisco's website shows no sign of this, and neither does a visit to quite a few locations, including Main Library, that I've made this month. I've also talked about the issues with respect to recruiting for tech without any particular reason. Nobody has to ask to see anything about tech when you put it on the bottom of flyers and on repeatedly on You're at the Library. This month, I'm glad to note that I've looked at several flyers in the main library, and lo and behold, they don't have any of the usual logos of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. Very glad to see it, and I hope that our talking to you about it has made an impression on you. Also, maybe that Elon Musk, who heads Twitter, X, has said he's going to donate $45 million a month to the Trump campaign and is positively and enthusiastically in favor of Trump. But you shouldn't be, you're still having it in your monthly newsletter, soliciting Get Social, and to go to the websites of the social media, which our Surgeon General of the United States has said is very bad for the public and kids in particular, also Frances Haugen. Let me recommend books by Shoshana Zuboff, Cory Doctorow, and others to learn more about the problems.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Emily Garvey, and I am the Executive Director of Friends of the San Francisco Public Library, and I have a few updates from Friends to share. We have successfully concluded our fiscal year on June 30th, and we are up and running fundraising for the new year. We have some great upcoming events that we want to let you know about. We have a booth at the San Francisco Art Book Fair, starting with a preview tonight and the regular sale throughout the weekend. This wonderful event is hosted by the Minnesota Street Project Foundation. Our monthly book sale will be on August 2nd and 3rd at our donation center located at 1630 17th Street, and it will run from noon to 5. Members of Friends, as always, save 10%, and everything is priced at $5 or less. Friends also continues to hold our book sale every Wednesday from 11 to 3 at the library's entrance on Larkin Street. Next, Friends wanted to add our own tribute to Marcia Popper which will come later on the meeting. As a dedicated supporter and advocate of libraries since 1988, Marcia's legacy will continue to influence Friends and SFPL for generations to come. Lastly, I would like to let the Commission know that today Friends shared a letter with the Rules Committee of the Board of Supervisors expressing concern regarding proposed legislation that would limit the library's options in choosing a location for a branch for the Ocean View, Merced Heights, Ingleside, and Lakeview neighborhoods. Friends has a long history of fundraising for furniture, fixtures, and equipment for newly constructed and renovated library branches. Fundraising is currently underway to support Mission and Chinatown renovations, and we are poised and ready and eager to fundraise for a new Ocean View branch when the location has been chosen. In closing, we appreciate the continued support and collaboration of the Library Commission and our shared commitment to the library's vital role in our community. Thanks.
Any further public comment? Thank you both for your public comments today. Public comment is now closed, and we will now turn to agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 2 is discussion and possible action to approve the June Commission meeting minutes. We will open up for public comment before a Commission discussion and vote on this item. As a reminder, please limit your public comment to this specific agenda item. Public comment is now open here in Correct.
Good afternoon again. Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. Once again, the minutes have jumbled what I've said so that they lack clarity about the points I was making in some cases. So let's start with the the comment number 1, public comment. I said that the U.S. Attorney General had put out an op-ed. I said it was in the New York Times. I think the names are important. In particular, you've given me the shortest, one of the shortest summaries, but I think the names are important. He didn't just put out an op-ed piece in some no-name place. He put it in the New York Times. And he talked about the serious dangers and problems of social media, especially for young people. and said there was action needed, eventually including there was mention by him and or others regarding the need for regulation. Regulation is needed for social media because of its toxic effects in many ways on the public, which you can read about in a whole range of places, including books at the library, such as by Shoshana Zuboff, The Age of Surveillance, Capitalism. Cory Doctorow has a number of very critical books about the internet and social media. You shouldn't be advertising those, and that's what I was saying, including what other people have called threats to democracy. Then, on the Equity Action Report, I didn't say I had nothing specific. I said I didn't have anything specific. I didn't have specific objections to what was said. What I said is I was concerned that there was a lack of specificity with respect to the goals, with respect to the progress reporting, including numbers. What are your goals with numbers, and what is your timeline? The statistics that were provided lacked specificity of that sort, and I thought they should have more specificity. So those are my major points with respect to the understandability and the in what I was saying, which has been summarized in ways, that are partial and incomplete and sometimes incomprehensible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment on agenda item number 2, which is discussion and possible action to approve the June Commission meeting minutes? Seeing there's no further public comment's now closed in Correct. And I turn it over to the Commission for discussion and action. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June Commission meeting?
I move to approve the minutes.
And do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Huang and a second from Commissioner Mall to approve the minutes.
And I'll take the roll call. Commissioners, please say aye or no when I call your name. President Wolf.
Aye.
Vice President Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Mall.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Commissioner Bolander.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We now move to item number 3. This is one of the 2 main focuses of our meeting today, and we're all looking forward to this, a discussion on the capital projects that are happening throughout the library system. And I turn this over to our city librarian, Michael Lambert.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, library commissioners. Library staff appreciate this opportunity to bring a progress report on our capital projects. As you know, our annual investments in capital projects represent a significant portion of our year-to-year operating budget expenditures, and they run the gamut in cost, complexity, and scale. Today, our Facilities Director, John Cunha, and Lisa Valerio, our Capital Projects Manager, will be providing this progress update on the library's portfolio of capital projects, including our major branch capital projects. We also have our colleagues here from Public Works, Senior Architect Lourdes Garcia and Architect Andy Sohn. They may be called upon later for any questions that you may have. At this time, I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Thank you. Good evening, Library Commission, City Librarian, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief of Public Services. Sorry, thank you. Good evening. As our City Librarian, I'm Lisa Valeria, the Facilities Capital Project Manager, and John Cunha, and the Facilities Director, and I will be highlighting some of our library projects. Our project updates include Support Services Facility, Mobile Service and High-Density Storage Facility, Main Library, the roof, moat, safety barriers, and carpet projects, and then our large capital projects, which will be presented by John Cunha, the Ocean View Branch Library, Chinatown renovation, and Mission Branch Library renovation. Our first project I'd like to highlight is the Support Services Facility Energy Efficiency. The estimated project budget is $8.9. The scopes includes a new HVAC system, as well as a replacement of the roof and installation of a photovoltaic panel system. The project is progressing, and we're estimating a completion of September 2024. The next project is our mobile services and high-density storage facility. The estimated budget for this project was 1.6. This included the installation of the compact storage. As you recall, last year in November, we shared with you that the project construction was complete. What I'd like to highlight is the spaces are now being utilized. Currently, our historical collection staff is present on site, and the collection has partially been moved in. We expect completion by the end of the year, and therefore, following after completion of the historical move, we will proceed with the periodical collection move, all to be completed by the end of this year and early next year. Next, I'd like to highlight some of our main capital projects here at Main Library. The first is the roof. The estimated budget is 6.4. The scope of the project, the estimated budget was 4 million. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. I apologize. Okay, I apologize. The roof, the estimated project budget is 6.4. This includes repairing the flat surface and water tightness. The schedule for this project is estimated to be starting in July 2025. Our next project, another vital building infrastructure project, is the moat. Estimated budget is 7.1, and the scope is including the upgrade of the seismic system that's the perimeter of our building. The schedule for this project is scheduled to start August 2025. Our next project that I'd like to highlight is the safety barriers. With an estimated budget of $4 million, this cost estimate was provided in September of 2022. We are working with Public Works to update that cost estimate. After the smoke analysis is complete for this project, then they will move forward with the cost estimator to provide an updated cost estimate. This will provide safety enhancement for our building and basically replicate the 5th floor design with the glass barrier attachment to the 3rd and 4th light wells, the atriums, and the 7th floor overlooking into the Corrette. We hope to start this project in January 2025. To wrap up our main library projects, we have our carpet replacement. We're working with Public Works to provide and define the scope of the project as well as estimated budget and schedule to be determined. Next, I'd like to happily reintroduce John Cunha, Facilities Director, who will be providing capital project updates for our large capital projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, Commissioners, Madam President, Chief of Public Services, Chief Operating Officer, and City Librarian. As Lisa mentioned, my name is John Cunha. I am the Facilities Director, and I'm very, very honored to be here talking to you this evening, and fortunate to do so. We wanted to start off by taking a look at the Ocean View Branch Library and that project. It was originally slated to be a renovation, I think, as you all know, as you all remember. The library heard from the community that they wanted an entirely new library. So we've been working towards that end for several years now. Now, of course, everything has been severely impacted by COVID. We lost a couple years there. So that really set us back. So we're getting back on track with design and concept and moving this ahead as quickly as we can. Currently, we're exploring our options with potential sites, right? We have the general concept that we want a regional branch there that can serve that community to the best of our ability, and provide that community not only what they want, but what they deserve. In that sense, we're looking at something from a 10,000 to anywhere to a 20,000 square foot regional branch library. As you all know, there's two potential sites that are in consideration right now. There's the Orizaba Brotherhood Way site. great site. It provides a lot of possibility. It is, however, located in a arguably, questionably safe area. And that is something we did hear and we continue to hear from the community, that this is not a favored place because of the nature of Brotherhood Way and Orizaba and the way the traffic is there now. We are continuing to work with SFMTA and SFCTA to understand their traffic studies of the area. They have their own independent projects going on there where they are trying to create greater pedestrian safety for the community. Maureen and I have been working very closely with that group to keep an eye on what they're doing. These are all independent projects, but we are doing our best to work together. Let's see here. So the other potential site, which provides a different set of potential benefits to the community, is the Pilgrim Community Church, which is located directly across, well, almost directly across from our current Ocean View Branch Library on Randolph. It is adjacent to the IT Bookman Community Center. Now, we were approached by that group quite a while ago about the idea of a partnership, right, a co-location there. So we've been exploring that. The library has been working very closely with real estate, the mayor's office of housing and community development, to understand what the possibilities are there, what could we do there that could work and that would ultimately better serve the community. There's some positives there. It could potentially be less expensive than a ground-up construction of a building that is wholly owned and operated by SFPL. Personally, I love the concept of co-location and being to offer, really, for lack of a better term, more bang for our buck to the community. So that's an exciting possibility. The schedule for that is currently to be decided. It's so conceptual right now. We don't know what that schedule would look like. Moving on here. So in consideration of the Orizaba site, this is just a rough construction schedule provided by our colleagues at BOA. So you can see the development of the Orizaba site would take approximately the next 2+ years. Construction would be roughly 2 to 2.5 years. And then with the completion of a new site at Orizaba, a new branch at Orizaba being sometime in 2030 or beyond. Again, I think this is just off the cuff here. I think that schedule could be somewhat condensed at the other site, but this is something we can actually consider now because there are fewer variables in this one, right? So we continue to obviously prioritize the Orizaba site, to take a serious look at it. We've had a professional, no, we're not there yet, sorry, professional cost estimator take a look at the Orizaba site. Their numbers came in quite high. We are looking at somewhere between, again, doing it on our own, a complete 20,000 square foot building, somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 to $94 million at the Orizaba site. So currently, as you all know, because I've talked to you about this before, at the end of fiscal year 26, the library will have set aside $47.1 million for a new Ocean View Branch Library. Okay. Now, as part of this ongoing effort to really try to give the community really the best services that not only we could provide, but potentially other partners, SFPL conducted a series of 3 community meetings back in May, and really wanted to dig in with the community to see what it was precisely they were looking for from a programmatic perspective at a new branch library. Our vision there is obviously to provide a democratic, equitable, and vibrant library for San Franciscans in that area, and to help connect, part of our mission, connect our diverse communities to learning opportunities in each other. During the community meetings, City Librarian Michael Lambert spoke. Our colleague from BOA did much of the presentation, where we just really wanted to dig in with the community about, some basic questions. What makes you proud of your community? What are your aspirations for a new library? And how can this library meet future needs? Some of the responses were, as far as this future needs, they hope that it could provide a community hub, a learning space, and a location that provides social services, enrichment classes, health, nutrition, and of course, safe access. Concerns were voiced again about safety at Orizaba, and within facilities, but obviously also SFPL in general. We just want to continue to consider both these sites and really develop them to the point of what's really going to serve the community the best. So that's pretty much where we're at on Ocean View. Moving on to Chinatown Branch Library. We are currently at beyond 95% construction documents on the plan. So we pretty much have a complete set of plans for that project. They just came back from QA/QC from a third-party vendor. That has been done, and we will be submitting for permits soon. So obviously no construction has begun on that, but we are getting close with the permits. The budget for that is currently set at $37 million. We are hoping for an NTP date of sometime January, maybe February of 2025, with the project completion sometime in spring of 2027. So closely related to that would be our Chinatown temporary library. So one of the things that SFPL is committed to during the construction time is to continuing to provide services to Chinatown while the Chinatown branch is closed for renovation. I just want to applaud Lisa. She's done a ton of work on this particular project, and it has been a lift. I don't know if any of you have looked for space in Chinatown, but it's a little challenging. So we did find an excellent site that's just a couple blocks away from our existing branch. It's at 950 Grant. We just received a signed lease from the property owner. We are moving into a TI phase right now. And one of my goals personally is I would like the opening of this to more closely coincide with the closing of the branch library, so that there isn't a wide window there where we're sitting on a building that's not being used. So with that being in mind, keeping that in mind, we want to open the temporary Chinatown branch in January of 2025. The Planning Commission heard the conditional use assessment yesterday was introduced, and no problems there. It's moving on to the next phase. So we're hoping for Board of Supervisor approval, hopefully towards the end of the summer, and we can just keep moving along with that. Again, hoping to move in December, possibly January. Open for business in January. Mission Branch. So this one, getting a little exciting here, given my background. These are the things I find exciting. So the Mission Branch Library renovation has been going at actually a great pace for the last few months. We are moving along. Andy Sohn with the Bureau of Architects has been doing a great job in keeping us abreast of the action and keeping this project moving. The estimated budget was $34 million on this project. We had an NTP, I believe it was early August of 2023, and we're looking at an estimated completion of January 2026. We did have some initial delays because of the licensing agreement there, which cost us a few days, but once that got resolved, we were back on track now. You can see here, these are just fun pictures. I just wanted to share some with you here. You can see the main reading room there, upper left. and then the underpinning, the temporary shoring to get the building up basically in the air. The building hasn't been moved. We've moved the ground from underneath it to reinforce the foundation and to also add a basement level for the new elevator. Some more pictures here. Upper left is the same. It's the new west wall of the main staircase, which will be, I think, pretty impressive once that's done. I love that we're going back to a more traditional look at this library, as it should be treated. It's the new 24th entrance in the distance of that upper left. Upper right, looking into the community room, foundation trenches for new step and seating. Lower left, workers are standing where the utility basement under the new addition will be built. And if you notice there, the entire west wall is on temporary supports. Lower right, the detail of temporary support structure holding up the west end of the building while the basement and foundations are excavated. And that wraps it up for my portion of this presentation. As I mentioned, Andy Sohn is here if we have any technical questions, and I'd be happy to field whatever questions I can for you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Lisa. Quite a portfolio of projects there. And just as a quick point of clarification, the Ocean View Branch Library project, at the conclusion of this FY 25-26 budget process underway, once the Board of Supervisors and the mayor sign off on that approved budget, we'll have $42.1 million allocated towards that project.
Thank you, Michael. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That was a lot. But before we open it up for questions and discussion from the commission, we're going to open it up for public comment first.
Thank you.
So public comment on this agenda item is now open here in Corrette.
Hello, Commissioners. I want to, first of all, let you know that since last time I was here, I've become president of the Coalition for San Francisco Neighborhoods. I think some of it has been because of my discussion with you folks regarding the Ocean View Library. That being said, I'm speaking here for myself. There are some members of my commission that would like to have the library at 100 Orizaba, which, of course, as you know, I'm opposed to. One of the things I think that's most important about the development at 100 Orizaba is that it's an opportunity for the Greenbelt to be developed. I know that Supervisor Asha Safai made the comment when he lost his exclusive request to have only 100 Orizaba considered as the construction site. He complained that people like myself and my district, Metna, wanted to keep the Greenbelt frozen in time. But frozen in time really means that it's green and not developed, not made into affordable housing, which, as you know, some people have an income of $100,000. The location of the library at 100 Orizaba continues to be very unsafe. I remember going up Orizaba just this last Sunday, and I got to speak to Dr. Pierre, and I had to drive into driveways in order to let cars pass me as I was going up Orizaba. That happened twice. And we cannot deny the fact that the location at Randolph Street still has a great service for the M streetcar. They have these large platforms that people that are handicapped are able to use. And they would be only 20 feet away from the new library location, that is to the door of it. Whereas if you were to get to 100 Orizaba using the M streetcar, you would have to walk 2 blocks at a grade of 8%, which is, you know, in my mind, completely dismisses that location. And still, no matter what happens, there's still 5 crosswalks that need to be crossed to get from Alamany Boulevard.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Greetings to the commission, staff, and our city librarian, and to anybody connected with our great SFPL. I'm a volunteer on the Council of Neighborhood Libraries, the Ocean View Library, where I grew up in the OMI. I was born and raised in the OMI and continue to live there. My name is Nikki Tresvina. On behalf of the OMI residents that are highly anticipating our new branch, a much-needed branch, I'd like to make a few comments. I've observed that District 11 Supervisor Safai and some of our very legendary community leaders are very pro and are promoting in a very strong way the 100 Orizaba location. Well, have you taken a look at it? It's beautiful. It's got all this green around it. It's a major piece of property, and it's already owned by the city of San Francisco. Que viva! However, there is a downside, and the downside is that this library is going to cause harm to our patrons and our loved ones that will use the library and live in that area, trying to utilize the library right there on Orizaba and Brotherhood. It's a very dangerous area to drive, to walk. It also includes Alamany and Sagamore Streets, and it's like being in a real live Pac-Man game, okay? It's not safe. But to bring us back to some good news, the Bay Area Housing Financial Authority has placed a measure on the California state ballot that we will vote on in 4 short months in November. This statewide bond initiative is called the Bay Area Housing Bond, and it will, if it is approved by the voters, it will bring $20 billion, yes, I said billion dollars, to the 9 Bay Area counties, with almost $2.4 billion targeted to San Francisco. That will definitely come in handy as we look at the second site that we're considering, which is the Pilgrim Community Church and IT Bookman Community Center, which I support. I don't like to be dependent on SFMTA to put any corrective measures around safety at the other site, because what I learned in studying psychology is that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. And if we look at MTA, they excel in not meeting deadlines, they excel in exceeding their budgets, and they excel in not listening to community input.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. First of all, thank you to the presenters. I agree with most of what the second speaker said and pretty much all of what the first speaker said. Also omitted was the fact that the dangerously located Orizaba location is an earthquake site with earthquake danger right with the fault line right underneath. And if a supervisor thinks that this is freezing something and, gee, it's anti-progress, how about using the more favorable term preservation of a green space, and not having an incursion which might encourage further and further incursions of a quite beautiful spot. I also have talked to the commission previously about some of the other issues as well, including the fact that crossing right next to it is basically a death trap, where cars come speeding around with no through streets slowing them down, right up to where the pedestrians are crossing. I wanted to comment further on, also I'd like to see with respect to what's being planned, I don't know what flexible space means. To my mind, that's a way of avoiding concrete specifics. How many books are going to be there compared to the existing? How much more shelf space, if any, is there going to be there compared to existing? Those are basic measurements of how you have a library. And that's hasn't been mentioned yet at all. Also, I'm concerned in general with this project as well as with others about tiny, very small temporary replacement spaces. Is the library interested in public service or in continuing on its building program where it's the Winchester Mystery House, as though if we stop building, something terrible is going to happen? I'm concerned about what sounds like tiny spaces for both the mission, the mission branch already has a very tiny replacement space, and I'm concerned with the other libraries that we have on the list. What is going to be provided for public service specifically? I'm very concerned about closed shelving for the historical collection. I'm very concerned that that's being solidified when in fact we know that pretty much circulation and people's awareness of a collection dies when you have it on closed shelving, especially at a distance from the main library. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Thank you very much, members of the tribunal or the board. My name is Dr. Evans Woodarek. I come from Africa, and I've been in this library, I think, for associated with from 2017 to date. I need to register the greatest concern which I've experienced in this library, and that's why I've decided to come. Even right now, coming here, the security, I don't know whether you enlighten these people on the relevant laws of the land. Me, I was not born in Africa. I went to London for my studies. And because of my research, I know a bit about the California laws and the state laws. The security here is very bad. I'm telling you this from the biggest point of my heart. The security of this place are very bad. They don't know even what is the Brown Act. They refused me not to come here today. Today, a woman and a black man, they refused me not to come here. My reason here is that I have a card. I was refused. I was suspended. They called police on me. What for what? I don't do crime. I'm a researcher. This is why I've come here purposely to address you as members of the board or whatever, the commission or the tribunal, whatever you call it, that the law protects everybody, including the poorest black man like me in this land of America. You have to address this. The big issue is the security at the gate here must be fired within 2 weeks. That's what I'm giving you. The security from the safety, whatever, the woman there and the man, black man must be fired. That's what I'm telling you. And then the second thing, why was I suspended? For what? Because I didn't give the birth date?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
We're on a particular agenda item, and we ask that you address this particular agenda.
There is no agenda I've been briefed on. This is a public comment.
And
I'm talking
no,
about
this is not public comment. Public comment already happened. So we have heard what you had to say, but we have to ask you to stop unless you want to address this particular agenda item.
Agenda is,
So we want to
that's
thank
my
you. We
concern.
did hear you, and we appreciate your letting us know.
Thank you very much. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment on this agenda item number 3, which is discussion on capital projects and update report?
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Harris, president of All My Neighbors in Action. And I don't even know where to begin. I don't think I sufficiently understand the increase in cost, because I don't think we need the helicopter landing pad, because that must be included. I mean, I can't imagine 65 to 94 million, what is the increases? So I would like a better explanation on the increase and the options, like if we do 20,000 feet. I don't recall what the one we have now, how many feet is it? Anyway, I would like to know the differences between 25, 15, and 10, and what that would look like. I also need more information on the Randolph site. Like, what does that look like? What's the timeline on that? What's the budget on that? I don't think we've been really given real options on both locations. I would say both locations need safety, adjustments, whether it's Brotherhood and whether it's Randolph, because I worked at the COVID site at Randolph I worked 2.5 years, but part of it was at 50 Broad, and then it went to Randolph. And so I saw a lot of bad traffic things going on there. We used to see cars go racing by, and the volunteers and I would go, downtown Lakeview, look at what's going on here. And I actually saw a car just run into someone's house, right into their living room, just during the day. I just want us to have a real honest discussion on the trade-offs. My main thing is to get that library for our children. We don't have a bookstore. We don't have a lot of income in the Lakeview OMI, and we always seem to have to fight for every little thing. We don't have a grocery store, post office, and all the main amenities a lot of neighborhoods have. So really want to make sure that we have books, reading, learning, computers, everything you need in a library. So if you can keep the discussion going, and let's hope it won't be another 5 years, because it's already been 5 years, and we know that costs just keep going up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Any further public comment on this agenda item? Seeing that there's no further public comment is now closed on this agenda item. And I'm going to turn it over to discussion at the commission. If my fellow commissioners don't mind, I'd like to divide our conversation into 3 parts, just to keep the focus clear so it's not going all over the place. So I'd like to start our public comment, our own discussion, focusing on the presentation that Lisa made about the capital improvements happening with the support facilities, the mobile service and storage facility, and the activities here at the main library. Are there any comments or questions regarding that? Then we'll go to the 2 renovation projects, and then we'll end with Ocean View. If that's okay with everybody, just to kind of focus it. Great. So any comments or questions for Lisa or John about what's happening with all of these many improvements? Thank you very much for that overview. I'm always surprised by how much is going on, but we are, in a sense, an organization full of property that constantly need, it never stops. It's like the painting of the Golden Gate Bridge. The minute you stop, you're starting all over again. So any comments or questions? Okay, that's good. So now we're going to move on to Mission and Chinatown, those renovation projects. So any comments or questions about those 2 projects? I want to just say thank you, Lisa, for the effort, and the whole team for getting us a location now so that we can make the tenant improvements and be ready to be open, so that there is no lag of time for any user and patron in this Chinatown district. So thank you for that.
I have a question on the Mission Branch Library renovation. If I recall correctly, at the last, meeting that we talked about this, there were some issues with PG&E, and I was just wondering if you could give us an update as to where we are with that project. I'm correct, right? I was, okay, yes. Thanks.
Hi there, Andy Sohn from Public Works. No, you're correct. PG&E is an ongoing issue for all of our projects. On Mission Library, there's a distinction between types of service and their relationship with PUC, and that's been resolved. We've been grandfathered into the old agreement. We're doing a much simpler system. There's been risk with PG&E, aspects of the PG&E for the whole project. There's still a few things out there, but most of the stuff has been ironed out. We're grandfathered into what's called a secondary service, and yeah, so the risk has been reduced.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments about Chinatown or Mission Branch? Okay, we're raring to go and focus on Ocean View. I just want to say that I just know from all of our conversations and the commitment of funds that we have set aside of $41.2 million that we will have put aside, there is a firm commitment from this commission, from this organization, to create a new branch of the library in the Ocean View District. And the real question is, what is the timeline going to be? What is the cost going to be? And where is it going to be? So I think that from my perspective, and I'm just offering this, we have two locations that are simultaneously and on the same path, even though we have a priority based on the supervisor's direction to prioritize to one location, but we are keeping both location options open, and there are pros and cons to both. And I think we're all a bit frustrated by the long timeline, but I think COVID really slowed us down. And of course, the cost estimates coming in are kind of like shocking. Talk about sticker shock, but all you have to do is go to the grocery store and you see sticker shock every day. So anyway, so I open this up for comment and questions. So John and Andy, you probably should come on up to the podium. Okay, Commissioner Mall.
I think I've been on the commission the longest of anyone here, maybe Teresa, but she's not here right now. We've been talking about this a long time. And I'm very touched by the public comment about the location, the site. I don't even understand why it's a conversation. I don't get why the Orizaba location is still up for discussion based on all of the modifications that would be necessary to make that location work when there is a perfectly good site across the street that we could partner with that would make people's lives easier, safer, it would cost the city less money, and because one supervisor has chosen this as far as I'm concerned, it's an outlying area, as his personal pet project, I don't see why we are all hijacked by this. I mean, I don't even know what else to say. I did have a question for the Friends of the Library. You mentioned that there was something today before the Rules Committee at the Board of Supervisors having to do, no.
Maybe Michael can address that.
Right. I can address all of your feedback. I'll start with the latter point. On June 18th, Supervisor Safai reintroduced his legislation that failed to pass earlier this year before the full board. His legislation was previously amended from precluding the library of being able to assess other options, and that original legislation was amended such that we now are going to prioritize the Orizaba site, but ultimately the city attorney weighed in and said we retain flexibility in choosing the site, but on June 18th, he reintroduced his legislation that would preclude us from building anywhere except 100 Orizaba.
Wait a minute, say that again. He would preclude building anywhere, okay. Yeah,
Exactly.
got it,
So
okay.
he's trying again, and this legislation may appear before the full board very soon. So we are monitoring that. I understand from the executive director of the Friends and her public comment that the Friends are in opposition to that legislation and ultimately want the library to have optionality in choosing the site that is best for the community. With regards to your other feedback, we are sensitive to the timeline, and we do, library staff, want to acknowledge the frustration. But I just want to be clear on the timeline. We started evaluating the business case for investments in 3 branch libraries in January of 2018. And that was Mission Chinatown and Ocean View. And as we've heard tonight from John's presentation, the library heard loud and clear from the community that a renovation was not going to meet their needs. So we responded to that feedback. In October of 2019, the commission heard a feasibility report that looked at 7 city-owned parcels of land along Brotherhood Way. So that's really when the clock started, in my opinion, about building a new library.
I've not been critical of you at all.
Right. But I just want to clarify, in March of 2020, we had a global pandemic.
Right.
All capital projects in the city were paused for 2 years. So if you do the math, we've really been working towards a new branch library in earnest for approximately 3 years.
Okay.
And in my estimation, we're on track. We've got $42.1 million socked away towards this project, and we're exactly where we should be, from my opinion.
Okay, well, then I modify, or I soften my remarks about how long this is taking, but I will not soften my remarks about the location. I mean, if somebody came from Mars and sat in this room, they would say, what are they talking about? It's so clear. So I'm in total agreement with the neighbors and the residents of the neighborhood, and just think we should create a lot of public awareness of what one of the supervisors, who's supposed to have the whole city in mind, what is going on here.
Thank you. Commissioner Bolander.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm just curious, what were some of the original estimates on the costs of the Ocean View project?
So I just realized why I made the error I made earlier, because the original ROM was 47 million back in 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. What are we looking? We're looking at about a 30% materials increase in the last 2 years.
75% in the last 4 years.
75% in the
Right.
last 4 years.
Okay.
So yeah, you think a grocery store is bad? Try going to the hardware store. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so obviously, time is not on our side, clearly. World pandemic, inflation, yada, yada, all this stuff. The thing that I want to share Susan's comments on is that the flexibility on where we put a new library and being able to use a process that is actually takes everything into consideration and not the dictate of something that may or may not be the right thing to do. I just encourage us to obviously to have an open process where we actually look at options and not be shoehorned in. And is it common for legislation like this to be, like, how often, what's the precedent for this, I guess, I'd like to know. If we know. If we don't know, then we can find out.
To my knowledge, it is highly irregular and uncommon. There's only one other precedent in recent memory that I'm aware of, and that related to the marina, the Recreation and Parks Department proposed marina project in District 2. So
Okay.
that was fairly recent.
Okay. So within the last 5 to 10 years, putting words in your mouth, there's been 2 instances of this, and it's very highly irregular, almost pathological. Okay. That's my words, not anyone else's. So, okay. Well, again, I just want to encourage us to be thoughtful. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's some people that want it there and there's some people that don't. I get that. But the process overall has to be very inclusive and thoughtful, and we have to consider safety. We have to consider all the things that matter. And the reason, so the thing I learned about government, which was shocking, being in the tech sector, like efficiency is not something we do. It's fairness. Government's about being fair and having a level playing field for which we can do things that matter to the public. If it was about efficiency, we wouldn't have roads and we wouldn't have libraries. just full stop. So I just appreciate everyone's hard work. I know everyone gets beat up on it, but let's just keep that in mind, be thoughtful and flexible. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to respond to Commissioner Mall, because I agree with her, but at the same time, I also know that the other site requires a lot of different parties sitting at the table, all agreeing to the same thing. And there's a lot more that's out of our control. And while I think there's a real sense from the community and just from the city's perspective about how you can bring housing and community centers and libraries all together, which is just a fantastic combination, it requires everything lining up, and we're just one piece of the puzzle. Whereas the Oriaba site is we just get to, we'll just do it. But then on that site, we're dependent on all the transportation authorities coming forward and actually doing what we need them to do, with a lot of money being, them allocating a lot of money for streetlights and cross streets and directing. So we're actually in kind of a bind. I mean, neither site is, it's just a straight path forward. But I do feel like the effort and the extra time likely required to bring the church and the community center and possible housing with the library is so worth it long-term for our city. Mm-hmm. It really is a wonderful way of advancing so many great things about our city. But I agree with Commissioner Bolander. We have these two sites, and we have to kind of play them both at the same time until we get to that point where we're just like, okay, a decision has to be made because here's what we have and what we know. Thank you for letting me intervene. Vice President Huang.
My question is, I guess this just comes up every time we talk about this, but it's like, what is the order of magnitude timeline on further information about the church/community center option? Like, are we talking about like another 3 months for us to know the general shape of it? 6 months, a year, 2 years? Like, do we have any information about that?
The linchpin to this question really is the November election. So this Bay Area housing ballot measure will be decided in less than 4 months now. Today's July 18th. The election is the first week in November. So that will clarify the viability of that project. That funding, state funding, or the ballot measures funding, I think, is essential for the viability of that option. And we will know soon enough, in my opinion, whether or not we go all in on the Orizaba site or continue to assess what is best for the community.
Gotcha. And how much of the other pieces are solved outside of this new source of funding? Is it as simple as, like, one extreme is like voters approve it and everything else is like, okay, we know exactly how the rest of the equation goes, and so therefore, like, we know it pencils out, we're going to do it, and we have like this timeline locked in place. The other side of that spectrum is like, okay, yes, and then there's like a whole bunch of other work that we got to do like right afterwards. Where are we on that spectrum in terms of how much the other stuff is figured out, knowing that the ballot is sort of like the most important piece here?
Well, we have had very preliminary conversations with the Pilgrim Community Church, the executive director of the IT Bookman Center. The real estate division for the city has brokered all of those conversations. They have validated that this option is feasible. And We also met recently with the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, who also validated the feasibility of this option and the prospect of the library being an anchor tenant in a broader joint use development with a long-term lease, perhaps 99 years, which is more than the typical lifespan of many of our libraries in the history of this institution. So we have been doing our homework and doing our due diligence. We may consider entering into a formal MOU with the Pilgrim Community Church in the coming weeks, just to formalize the agreement to explore this option fully.
Gotcha. I think the thing that's perhaps most frustrating for me, and I sort of understand given the venue and just how much we don't know at any given point, is frankly my reaction to this, which is nobody's fault, right? Because I think like everyone probably shares some level of frustration about this, is that like you see the number go up a lot in a very, very short amount of time. And like there's increasingly like more and more things it seems like we're learning about, like the option that we have the most clarity about, and it looks terrible. You know what I mean? And without any sense of like where new information is going to come from, that's just sort of in my mind of I'm quite honestly I'm a little bit like are we just stuck here? You know what I mean? Like this feels kind of bad in that sense, right? So that's just my general reaction of I know we're continuing to put work into things. I'm not sort of saying this as a way of like asking for more things. I'm just expressing my general sort of frustration about like it would be great to. I'm very much looking forward to more information on as quickly as timeline as possible about something else at this point.
Thank you for that feedback. And I'm the eternal optimist. And so just to respond and keep hope alive, if, in fact, we do have to turn our full attention to Orizaba as the only option, it's still a viable option. We have $42.1 million at our disposal. We can, continue to build that budget, but we can also work with Public Works on what's called a design-to-build option. And we can, leverage the available funds to build as large of a library as we can possibly build in the short term. And we still want to adhere to the recommendations that came from the Planning Department in April of 2022. They recommended at that time that we consider joint use and co-locating the library with other services, other amenities to bring greater benefit to the community. We've had at least one conversation with another department of city government that could perhaps bring some additional resources to bear for capital. So we will continue to have those conversations and just keep all of our options open. We are in communication with SFMTA and SFCTA, at which point, that we make a decision on the Orizaba site. They are going to be our partners in, prioritizing what needs to happen there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Lopez.
Hi, thank you, President Wolf, for your summary. I think that was very helpful. It is very complex, and obviously there's so many moving parts and things going on. And we have heard from the community on both sides of the Orizaba and the other location. What I'm not hearing, and maybe I skipped and not seen, is what are the difference in terms of our investment, in terms of space, in terms of what we are getting for either location. While I like the idea of joining with the community and having other development, we adding more engagement with third parties and fourth parties and fifth parties. And it seems like more people to discuss and to engage with. And I'm sensitive to the fact of, Orizaba, the traffic. there's a lot of development that is going to be happening in the next 10 years in that area alone. We just heard about the Stonestown area and the buildings and all of that. So for clarity, in terms of structure, in terms of what we're going to bring to the publics, to our patrons, what is the major difference in terms of the services that we will be able to provide on either side? That, to me, is one of the things where it gets lost in translation with the negotiations and the politics around it. So, because I remember being very excited about the Orizaba having all this technology and having a lot that it was going to bring. It was going to be innovated location. And then, but I'm not hearing much about what the other proposal brings and what are we going to offer the public, besides being a community-oriented, like with the church and the development. So can you shed some light on that?
Sure, that's a very astute question. And when we began this journey looking at the Orizaba site, we were aspiring for a library up to 20,000 square feet in size. We know in this moment, with $42.1 million and the increased cost ranging from $65 to $94 million, I think we saw earlier, we don't have enough money to build a 20,000 square foot library on the Orizaba site today. So, you know, there's some calculation that would have to be done looking at cost per square foot to understand what size library could we build with the available funds on Orizaba. It's not going to be 20,000 square feet. But the bottom line is whether we build on Randolph or Orizaba, we're committed to delivering a 21st century library with all the bells and whistles. It may look different as part of a joint use larger development on Randolph, but we would require at least a 10,000 square foot library on that site, which would still put that size facility in the top 3 to 6 overall out of our 28 library network. It would be greater than the average size. And we would want access to shared spaces, much like we have at Mission Bay. So Mission Bay Branch Library is part of a larger development with senior housing, and the library has access to a multi-purpose room that we program on a regular basis. So that would be the vision and the model if we were going to co-locate on the church's property. But as far as the programs and services, they would be consistent at either site.
Can I add to that, Michael?
Sure.
So this is a minor detail, but coming from my background and what I do every day, there would be shared space that are the obvious ones, like community rooms and that type of thing, right? But what I like about a shared location or co-location is there's all those little spaces that you don't think about. Elevators, stairwells, utility rooms, those things. That becomes shared cost, you know, most of the time, rather than it all being on us. So even though, you know, potentially it could be a smaller branch than at the Orizaba site theoretically, maybe not, we don't know at this point, but picking up all those little square footages here and there, it really does add up and it really does help spread that burden. So, I mean, I like that part of the concept as well.
Thank you. And Mission Branch is my local library, my local branch. And I was going to ask you if it's a similar model, because it's incredibly fantastic to have that kind of activity happening and cross-fertilization happening. And it's a great use of city dollars to do that. So it's very impressive. Any further comment? I just want to, on behalf of the commission, I really want to thank the neighborhood residents who have come out again and again to tell us what they think, to offer their perspectives, to let us know their dreams and their vision. You've come to the commission meetings, but we've also we've had many different meetings at the branches and at the Bookman Center, and I just want to say thank you for being active citizens and voicing what it is you want to see for your community. That really matters to all of us. I've had the honor and privilege, like many of my other fellow commissioners, to participate and listen to you in those meetings in the neighborhood, and it just really is wonderful to know that you care so deeply, not only about what you want, but also what is needed for the next generations. So I just want to say thank you, and a special thanks to the staff of the library, both internally here with all the planning, but also to that branch for being so thoughtful, continuing to be so thoughtful with the limited space that they do have and the increased need of what the community wants. And also to our colleagues in Public Works, the architectural team, thank you for your efforts and for always showing up and providing us with that. So thank you, John and Lisa, and that ends the discussion on item number 3. Thank you. We will now move on to item number 4, which is discussion on the city librarian's report. And while I know this is coming up a little later, I think we have to start. Before I turn it over to our city librarian, I just want to acknowledge that he is the president of the Public Library Association. And he was, so Mr. President, there's another job available in this country, so if you're ever the optimist. We just want to thank you. This is a great honor that you bring to this city as the speaker for and the visionary for the entire nation in this capacity, and we could not be more proud and more honored by what you do every day for this city, but what you're going to do for the whole country using San Francisco as your base. So you're now wearing 2 hats. So to our city librarian, our Mr. President, I turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Madam President. It's an honor and a privilege to serve every day. We have several reports this evening for the City Librarian's Report, and I'm pleased to introduce our first presenter, Christina Mitra. She's our program manager for the Hormel LGBTQIA+ Center here at the main library. And Christina is going to be presenting on our Pride Month festivities.
Yes, thank you very much. Greetings, Madam President, fellow commissioners, Chief of Public Services, Chief Operating Officer, and City Librarian. It is my pleasure to be here once again to share the Pride activities and the Hormel Center's activities this year. So let's get started. So Pride Month at a glance. As you can imagine, Pride Month was a very busy one in a city like San Francisco. I'm very happy to say that we saw system-wide activation. This isn't anything new, but it always warms my heart to know that as the program manager of the Hormel Center, I'm not the only one in our library system celebrating and activating programming for Pride. So we actually had 29 programs throughout all of our system. That included 7 branches, as well as 6 other departments in addition to the Hormel Center here at the Main. So places like Art and Music had a weekly film program here in the Corrette. Information Services had an LGBTQ book swap, so lots of different things for all different kinds of ages, and that engaged about over 400 people. So in this presentation, I'm going to focus specifically on the Hormel Center activities, which, as you know, are located here on the 3rd floor of the main library, our outreach, and our continued partnerships. We kicked off the month on June 9th with a wonderful panel. I wish that you all could have been there. This was in our reading room, and it was called Authentic Selves, and it is in conjunction with the photo exhibit that's currently on the 3rd floor, as well as this fabulous book that's called Authentic Selves, Celebrating Trans and Non-Binary People and Their Families. And it featured these wonderful speakers, Lana Patel, Anjali Remy, and Freshlev White, with moderator and contributor Giuseppe Angelo Morelli. This was just a fabulous program showing a lot of vulnerability and inner strength. They shared very personal, compelling stories of triumph and joy in their lives, in spite of the dangerous times that they are facing as gender nonconforming people. I'm very happy to say that we at the Hormel Center love to work with others. Collaboration is just what brings us so much joy. And so these are 2 events that we had on the same night on June 13th. We collaborated with the Filipino American Center. Those are the photos in the middle and on the right, to welcome Therese R. Rodriguez. She is, if you don't know her, she's a force to be reckoned with, an absolute trailblazer, Filipina lesbian immigrant. And she's served as CEO of the Apicha Community Center in New York City since 1997, and she has really transformed that as an AIDS service organization to what is called a federally qualified health center, providing primary care and mental health services to vulnerable populations, including the LGBTQIA community, people living with HIV and AIDS, and especially focused on Asian and Pacific Islanders. And it was a wonderful night of lots of community, and our wonderful former Filipino American Center program manager, Abe Ignacio, brought his signature mochi cupcakes, which I wish you could have enjoyed. That same night, we also co-sponsored a very special edition of San Francisco Poet Laureate Emerita Kim Shuck's, her monthly poem jam that is done with the General Collections and Humanities Center. And this was featuring Sinister Wisdom, which is a wonderful multicultural lesbian art and literary journal. And that was an evening event hosted by Yeva Johnson. And Yeva, you might know, recognize her. She's a current Brown Handler writer's resident with the Friends of SFPL. Also in this Pride Month, we welcomed students from Carroll University, Wisconsin. So at least a few times a year, it's my absolute joy to welcome college tours from out of state. We're always on their must-see stop on their tours, and this was a 2-week cross-cultural experience where they're focused on public health, and so our wonderful archivist Tim Wilson curated selections from the Hormel Center archives focusing on queer community, culture, and health. So really, obviously, as an epicenter of the AIDS crisis, our collections are invaluable and really inform these young people's understanding of what it was like during that time. We continue with wonderful partnerships with our community film festivals. So Frameline, on June 26th, we were a community partner for the screening of Sally, which is a brand new documentary directed by Deborah Craig, who relied heavily on the Hormel Center archives for her research. I hope that you all know who Sally Gearhart is, but in case you don't know, she was a radical lesbian feminist whose far-reaching impacts have largely been erased from our history. She was involved in the defeat of the Briggs Initiative, which tried to prevent gay educators from practicing in schools, to founding the first women's studies program. And she was a fierce-hearted San Franciscan political preacher, really central to many of the iconic movements here in the 70s and 80s. And on the right there, we have the 20th Annual Queer Women of Color Film Festival, where we partnered for their opening night, which featured primarily Indigenous films about persistence and perseverance. So with both of these, we're aiming to reach wide audiences beyond the library walls. Definitely some of the biggest highlights from Pride Month is our outreach. So we bookended 2 wonderful outreach events, starting first on June 1st. It's on the picture on the left. The Hormel Center team and SFPL staff braved the winds of the Presidio to offer free book giveaways, library signups, and spread Summer Stride love to about 100 visitors. And that was the first time that the Presidio, even though we've partnered with the National Park Service many, many times, this was their first official Pride event, and it was a wonderful success, and we were very happy to be part of it. And then at the end of the month, on June 29th, we were posted at the Trans March Resource Fair. It's the 20th year of the Trans March, and together with our staff and also our Smith College summer intern and also other staff from the 3rd floor, we assisted over 500 people to receive wonderful books for all ages and spread library joy in Dolores Park. And I did talk to lots of different people. You know, people are coming from everywhere. They're visiting from out of town, they're locals. And then this particular patron needed to whip out her green library card from the 1980s. And she said, "I've been loving you for decades." So I needed to snap a picture of her. We've definitely had presence on social media. We made a reel with our social media maven Kelly Sheehan to make this Instagram reel about queer books that we're loving this summer. And then I just want to point out that as a comment to this on our social media, we had a parent who said, I want to give a big shout out to San Francisco Public Library for representing in the most wonderful way I could imagine at SF Trans March again this year. My toddler loves reading the wonderful gender-inclusive storybook you gave us. Thank you. Heart, heart, heart. Knowledge is power. Of course, Pride Month was rounded out with the Pride Parade. We had bright, positive energy. Our library staff, our friends staff, our fabulous commissioners declared SFPL as the queerest library ever to the cheering crowds down Market Street. And we won the Best Community Group Award. So there we are with our fabulous ribbon. And as we were passing by the parade judges, we had a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence. You can see her holding her hand up with the mic. And I want to just share a comment from a library page who marched with us for the first time. And this page says, "It was my first Pride Parade marching with the library. The reaction of the crowds to us was incredible. I've previously marched in Atlanta with a corporation. Nobody gets excited about a corporation unless you're handing out good swag. When that kind Sister of Perpetual Indulgence emceed at the grandstand, announced us over the mic, and rattled off things like, quote, defenders of democracy, end quote, quote, providers of shelter to the indigent, end quote, etc., it was difficult not to become emotional in the middle of Market Street. 10 out of 10 would recommend doing again. Wonderful experience." So you're hearing it first. It was a wonderful month of a reminder that our impact goes far and wide, and our presence is very appreciated in our communities near and far. I want to thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you again next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. All right, our next presenter is Natalie Enright, Literacy Manager at the Bridge at Maine. Natalie is going to be presenting on our most recent career online high school graduation. Natalie?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the space to come and talk to you about Career Online High School here at the Public Library. Let's see here. So the Career Online High School is a fully accredited, completely 100% online high school program here at the library. Students also get a career certificate. One of the great features of COHS is that it allows students to also transfer GED credits and previous credits from previously attended schools to shorten their length of time in the program. And it's completely free to San Francisco residents and anyone with a San Francisco Public Library card. COHS is designed to be flexible, accommodating busy schedules. So most of our students are in their 30s, they're currently working, they have other responsibilities like taking care of families, and so that they don't have to go to a traditional classroom at a scheduled time is one of the reasons that they choose to partner with us and come into our school. And then the career certificate as well is a big advantage for folks that want to further their careers or go into other careers that may not have been an option for them before joining Career Online High School. Another feature of this online school is that each student, after they're onboarded, is paired up with an academic coach that works with them throughout the entire program. So while it is completely online, they do have access to this person to ask questions about any of the academic resources that they might need to help them, as well as any other challenges that they might face. This is really important because a lot of the students that I see when I'm onboarding are coming to our program with a lot of educational trauma. So to try to make it as accessible as possible and to tear down some of these barriers is really important to us. Another feature that's very important is the competency-based and no-fail approach of Career Online High School. This means that students have unlimited times to take tests and exams, so they can continue to take them. They're not timed. They can take breaks at any time until they pass the assessments after each lesson and semester. And again, this is to reduce some of that educational trauma. For our students with learning differences, all of the lessons are read out loud. So this is a feature that we've found that has been very helpful for students who also have or have IEPs. There we go. Too fast. There we go. So Career Online High School came to us in 2015, and I am so excited to be a small part of this because I do think it's very much in line with the library's commitment to adult education. Again, this program is specifically for folks that are over the age of 18 and have not had the chance to complete a traditional high school. So we do have people, I think the average of our students is 38. So to be able to have that opportunity here at the library and not have to pay for it, we do pay for the program tuition and registration for all of the students, has been a real important commitment to the library's commitment to adult education here for our community. I would also say that with the career certificate, we get folks that get to go back into the community and support, our economic growth in places where they may not have been seen or represented here in San Francisco. And so as far as the program impact, since 2015, we've had a little over 100 graduates since our last graduation in this past June. And 11 of them graduated this year. We had 5 of them here in the Cret Auditorium for that graduation. And then again, the community impact is empowering adults, enhancing their job opportunities here in the city, and contributing to economic growth in their communities. And here is really fast, this thing. There we go. Here is a picture of our graduates. Again, we had it here in the Cret Auditorium, and then we had a reception that followed in the lobby there. They were pleasantly surprised. I didn't give away too many details about the graduation, so when they came and we were able to put them in their gowns, having our city librarian here, and our deputy chiefs here as well too to help and support, I think was such a big deal. We also had ambassadors that came from the school and traveled here and spoke. They presented some comments from their from their academic coaches on the stage, and the families came to us and said they were pleasantly surprised and really happy with how much care we put into the ceremony. So again, this is a picture of our students this year. And here's a comment from one of the graduates, Evelyn Augustin. She said, "I have no words to tell you how special and motivating this celebration was." So again, I think this speaks to the success of the program and the motivational impact it gives to students and their families. She had children here as well too, so to see that kind of carry on into the community through her family was very special. I think I cry every year when we do this graduation. And now for a call to action. So I've held on to this program now. This will be my second year. And so looking at it and trying to think how we can move forward and do better, even though we're doing a good job, is thinking about an alumni network. So really establishing a community with our graduates and seeing how they can also give back to our current students. Because it's online, it is challenging compared to a school that's in person to build that community. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to working on, as well as employer partnerships. So trying to see how we can get those graduates, even if they do have a job, but to get a better job and a career as well too. So I'm looking forward to even partnerships with our Jobs and Career Center here at the library and seeing how we can develop more support platforms for our students after they graduate. And then just continued community outreach. Right now, we do partner with local organizations where we are able to speak about this program, and I often do on outreach. And so I want to continue to do that so that we can meet the community where they're at and tell them about this program that might fit their needs. In order to do that, besides outreach, we'll continue to use social media, which we found is very effective, local media, and the library's website. We've also recently just developed a partnership with the local DMV to run ads there while people are waiting that talk about the school as well. And that was it. So thank you so much for your time and letting me speak about Career Online High School. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Natalie, can you pass me the clicker? And I can't say enough what a great job Natalie is doing. She's been in the Bridge for a year. First year was as a librarian. She recently promoted in recent months to be a manager in that space. So thank you for all your hard work and your leadership. All right, in closing, I'm pleased to report that yours truly was inaugurated earlier this month as the new president of the Public Library Association. And this is a photo here at the American Library Association Annual Conference in San Diego. You may recall I stood for election in the spring of 2023, and I won this honor to serve as our industry's professional membership association president. So after serving as the president-elect, we formally passed the gavel at our PLA board meeting a few weeks back. And this is the PLA immediate past president now, Sonia Antoine Alcantara. She is the executive director of the Baltimore County Public Library in Maryland, passing the gavel here. The other photo features Sonia alongside her predecessor as past president, Maria McCauley. She's the director of the Cambridge Public Library in Massachusetts. Maria was also in the Simmons College PhD program, where you may recognize the other guy up there, our beloved retired city librarian, Luis Herrera. He was a professor there, but he was also the past president of the Public Library Association from 2003 and 2004. And he traveled to San Diego to be present for my inauguration luncheon, and as my mentor and as my appointing officer, it really meant the world to me to have him present for that occasion. As president, I am looking forward to representing the profession, representing the city and county of San Francisco, and defending intellectual freedom at a time when libraries and library workers are under assault and being threatened all over the country. Less exciting, I'll be focused on supporting PLA staff in development of a new operating agreement with our parent organization, the American Library Association, and how the divisions like PLA interface with ALA. And that concludes the City Librarian's Report.
Thank you very much. I just want to begin by thanking Christina and Natalie. We'll have time for discussion with the commission, but before we bring it to the commission level, we just want to open it up for public comment. Public comment is now open here in Correct.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. I wonder if that last picture was knocking some sense into or maybe out of the president. But in any case, congratulations. The word history was mentioned in the Hormel in the Pride Month presentation, and I don't know about the history between where I'm going to mention and now, but Effie Lee Morris was also the Public Library Association president. I see our newly elected PLA president nodding. I'm not sure there was anybody else from San Francisco Public Library who what became Public Library Association president, but she was terrific. I've mentioned her in the past. very, very favorably. I did want to mention pride. There was a mention of history. First of all, thank you for the presentation and especially for all of the programming that happened. But I do have some problems with what did not happen and what is not present, and that is I've talked about the de-emphasis on books, and I had a lot of trouble with the kind of lack of publicity about the library's actually quite terrific collections. The library has a lot of terrific material, not only books and magazines, but certainly also, for example, research materials. The Randy Schiltz collection, 75 boxes from Randy Schiltz. But I had a lot of trouble finding information about pride. How did we get here? It used to be gay liberation. It used to be gay pride. They've dropped gay. I don't think I've seen a mention of gay, one word of gay here. I have seen trans once or twice and LGBTQIA, and that's good. But with respect to what's available in the library, its own assets, I would like to see a lot more. With respect to queerest.library.ever, much of the collection of gay materials and gay-related materials is hidden away in closed shelving. One author that I'm familiar with, 12 mentions of different materials, all of them not just on paged, but on delayed paging, so you have to fill out a form, give your name, and come back another day for when they have retrieved it. The closed shelving of so much material, I think, is very unfortunate. And the lack of publicity in the branches about all of this is also, I think, unfortunate. It's not what I think it should be. I think the library does have terrific assets, and it would be great to have more visibility and access.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing there's no further public comment's now closed on this item, and I bring it back to the commission for any questions or comments. Just to remind you, we had a wonderful presentation by Christina about Pride Month. Thank you for that. And to Natalie about the Career Online High School program. And of course, Michael, we've already bowed and curtsied, and we'll be after you all year long, believe. Yeah. So if there are any comments or questions from the commissioners, we're so moved by everything that you've done, and I know Commissioner Lopez and I, we both really enjoyed participating in Pride, so thank you for that, being so welcoming. And I did love the final slide image of Michelle with her daughter. That was a great image of just showing the way in which we all kind of came together. Comments, questions? Great. Well, thank you very, very much. Really keep doing the extraordinary work you do to engage the community, to bring people to new levels of learning and access. It's really inspiring, and why we really care so deeply about what you do here at the library. So thank you. We will now turn to item number 5, which is adjournment. And today, occasionally there are people who have made such an impact in this community that when they pass, it's an opportunity to really honor them, learn about their contributions. And so today we are really privileged to be able to honor Marcia Popper. I believe her husband is here with us today, Dr. Popper, so we're delighted that you could be here to in recognition of the extraordinary contributions that your wife made to the library and to this community. But I'm going to turn it over to City Librarian Michael Lambert to address that in greater detail.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate this opportunity to pay tribute to our dear late Council of Neighborhood Libraries representative, Marcia Popper. As noted in her obituary, Marcia Popper passed away on June 7th, 2024, surrounded by family. She was nearly 92 years old. It also noted that she was a longtime advocate for San Francisco Public Libraries and a prodigious theater and arts patron. Upon learning of Marcia Popper's passing, I reached out to our San Francisco History Center staff and tasked them with looking through the archives for the earliest mentions of her name. The team found some extraordinary records that take us back to a time in the late 1980s and early 1990s when our neighborhood libraries were being threatened with closure, and our book budget was one of the lowest in the country per capita. As best we can tell, Marcia Popper was one of the earliest members of the Council of Neighborhood Libraries. We take for granted now the existence of what we call CNL, as well as the sustainable funding that we enjoy with our library system. But it's worth noting what Marcia Popper helped create. Our Council of Neighborhood Libraries has the following purpose statement. In order to create a public library system that best meets the needs of San Franciscans, the Council of Neighborhood Libraries promotes dialogue among and between branch libraries, San Francisco neighborhoods, and library and city decision makers by promoting public awareness about the public library system and its services, identifying and championing branch needs, and working to resolve issues, acting as a conduit for neighborhood input. As a testament to CNL being a champion of branch needs, a March 1990 Glen Park Neighborhood Association newsletter reported, "Slowly but surely, the city is figuring out just what a powerful group branch library patrons can be, particularly when it comes to lobbying. This power was demonstrated last year during the budget-making process, when the city attempted to cut book buying funds by $250,000. Virtually all of that was restored because of major arm twisting carried out by council members. This year, they relearned the lesson when attempts to close the Presidio Branch Library under the guise of earthquake storage needs was met by a barrage of outcry coordinated by the council. It's worth noting Presidio Branch Library was Marcia Popper's branch. Our team also uncovered Marcia's first appearance that we know of at a Library Commission meeting that was noted in the minutes. The August 4th, 1992 Library Commission highlighted, Marcia Popper, active with the Neighborhood Council, stated that she hoped the commission would be receptive to other interest groups when they need to be represented. A San Francisco Examiner article with Marcia Popper speaking out on behalf of CNL in March 1992 epitomizes her activism, and I quote, "Threat to San Francisco Library. San Francisco is facing a time when its citizens, especially those with the least resources, will have enormous need of a library system able to fulfill its public mission. The San Francisco Public Library has been asked to cut its budget for next year by $1.7 million. Is that what the people of San Francisco want? Are San Franciscans going to stand by and watch this happen? The overriding assumption for consideration of the library budget must be this: can we really afford to let this relatively small basic service department, already decimated by budget cuts of the past 4 years, weaken beyond the present point where service levels and infrastructure are only minimally adequate? How can we consider ourselves a first-class city when the San Francisco Public Library has a per capita book budget of only $2.78? Cleveland's corresponding budget is $9.80. Considering the remarkable range of educational, professional, and cultural resources the library can provide, restoring $1.7 million to its budget is undoubtedly one of the most cost-effective investments that can be made in San Francisco's future. The funds are there if we care. Signed, Marcia Popper, Council of Neighborhood Libraries, San Francisco. It's worth remembering Marcia Popper's advocacy in those early years. They were at a time when the Library Preservation Fund did not exist, and SFPL had to scrap and scrape for every nickel. Most recently, she faithfully attended her last CNL meeting on May 23rd, 2024. She was devoted to her beloved SFPL to the end. As the 7th city librarian over the past 5 decades that Marcia interfaced with as a CNL member, I can personally attest to her passion for our San Francisco Public Library. Thank you, Marcia Popper, for sharing your passion for strong neighborhood libraries and for being such a committed advocate for SFPL. Your legacy has made all the difference. May she rest as she lived in power. Commissioners, I appreciate your consideration this evening for adjourning today's meeting in her memory.
Thank you very much. That was quite beautiful and wonderful to learn so much about her. Before we have our own discussion here and conclude our meeting, we will open it up for public comment. Public comment is now open here in Corrett Auditorium.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. Thanks very much for the augmentation to what's provided in the agenda. I would like to request a copy. I think it would be terrific for everybody to have a copy of some of the history. My limited awareness of Marcia Popper was, I felt that she was, the word devotion comes to mind. She was devoted to what she was doing with respect to the library and cared a lot. And I appreciate that a great deal. In terms of the per capita funding, we, at this time, have one of the richest libraries in the entire country, and certainly on a per capita basis. In its size, the library has huge, is head and shoulders above even number 2, and the last time I checked had triple the funding overall of the average in its size category of 500,000 to 1 million folks, even though in population it's right in the middle. So it has come a long way, and that's great. So I certainly support closing in honor of Marcia Popper. I did want to say that the last slide that we showed with the hammer on the head, we have to say, don't try that at home or anywhere else. It was a joke. It was a joke. And finally, as you know, I always say this, I'd like for you to be taking up, having an item on every agenda item. I'd like you to not adjourn until you insist on that, and that is to have an item on the agenda that says what you would like to have on a future agenda. You used to do that. Many places still do that. And it's very helpful, based on what happens at the meeting, for you to say, gee, you know, we ought to go into that more. Questions have been asked about specifics on various things, both from the public and from your own members. And I think it doesn't obligate you to anything, but it certainly helps in terms of your ability to participate and contribute to the operation and the policies and practices of the library. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for adjourning the meeting in Marcia's honor. She absolutely deserved it. My name is Nora Dowley. In 1997, Marcia welcomed me to the Council of Neighborhood Libraries as the Glen Park representative. And she was a mentor and friend to me, as well as all the representatives. She was our voice of reason, perspective, wisdom, and she had a wonderful sense of humor. I will miss her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other further public comment? Seeing there's no further public comment's now closed, and I will turn this over to discussion and adjourning the meeting in memory of Marcia, in memory and in honor of Marcia Popper. Someone like
I move that we adjourn the meeting, and in memory of Marcia Popper, may her memory be a blessing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Mall and a second from Commissioner Lopez to adjourn the meeting in memory and in honor of Marcia Popper.
And I'll take the roll call. Commissioners, please say aye or no when I call your name. President Wolf?
Aye.
Vice President Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Mall?
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez?
Aye.
Commissioner Bolander?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you again, Dr. Popper, for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. And we hope that there are many people in the next generation hearing about Marcia Popper and what she does to continue the fight to make the San Francisco Public Libraries as great as they are for all citizens. We look forward to seeing you in August. Enjoy the rest of the month ahead, and thank you again.